Mythic Plus is already stressful enough under normal circumstances, so naturally, I decided to make it significantly worse. Today, every time I complete a Mythic Plus dungeon, I'm going to make the game progressively more cursed. First I'll lose my add-ons, then I'll lose my keybinds, then I'll lose the entirety of my UI. Eventually, I'm not even sure you could call what I'm doing World of Warcraft anymore. My goal here is simple: see how far I can get before the game becomes completely unplayable. We're going to start things out pretty tame. Firstly, I'm going to turn off every single add-on that I think has any impact on Mythic Plus whatsoever. Then I'm going to go into the settings and switch off the cooldown manager so that I only have the native blizzard bars to work with. We're going to be doing these runs in +12s as well, partly because I think that it still maintains enough difficulty that the challenge isn't just a full joke, but also because they're resilient. So if something does go wrong, I'm not left with like a +9 or something afterwards. We're starting out with Skyreach for this part of the challenge. So after assembling a squadron, we head on over to start the run. Given that this part of the challenge was supposed to be the easy bit, I was a little bit concerned when the first pull went pretty wrong. And no cooldown manager is actually hard. It turns out, though, this wasn't actually the lack of add-ons or the cooldown manager. This was more just the fact that I hadn't played a Retribution Paladin for quite a while. In the end, it turned out that it was more or less just teething pains. I actually got used to having no add-ons and no cooldown manager relatively quickly. Aside from that, I did work out that Blizzard's default frames are not very good. It's actually really hard to see what's casting. I don't know if there's some settings that you can change to fix this, but like, it did take a tiny bit of adjusting to. Aside from mismanaging my cooldowns a little bit because I didn't have numbers to be able to show the actual times left, this actually went pretty smoothly. So we finished the Skyreach off pretty quickly. Easy. At this rate, I'm thinking we need to ramp up the difficulty pretty quickly. So, ramping up the difficulty. Next is no keybinds allowed. This run is bringing me right back into my early 2000s days when I was 14 playing the game. I am clicking every single ability. We're also carrying over the no cooldown manager and no add-ons from the first part, so this is definitely a step up. As it stands though, 13-year-old me would have been so proud at this moment. I was so locked in on my bars. The thing is, when you're clicking, apparently you just can't look at like anything else on the screen. So I just assumed that I would be doing like completely terrible damage. Then I looked up at the end of the first pull of this Algathar and... Wait, what? I'm cranking? Hello? Whoa, what? We had a few whoopsie moments where I would accidentally cast spells that I didn't want to cast, but... No, I cast a flash of light. That's not what I wanted to do. Some pulls with really heavy movement were actually quite hard for clicking, though. This one in particular, just before the last boss with lots of swirlies on the ground, really challenging. Clicking isn't too bad if you don't have to maneuver your character too much, but the instant that you have to move, I don't know, it just threw me out of whack completely. Okay, that was difficult. It turns out, though, that clicking actually isn't too bad. We finished this key with like so much time to spare, and then looking at the logs afterwards, apparently I passed a 95 by clicking. I thought that this would be a massive handicap, but it turns out that it's actually not. We need to up the ante pretty quickly, and I think the next one will definitely do that. Next up, we're going to do clicking, no add-ons, no cooldown manager, and first-person camera. The first thing that became immediately apparent to me here is that you cannot see anything in first-person mode. It is so hard to work out what you're standing in and where you're going. And on top of that, Paladin is very, very visually appealing, but the light actually makes it really hard in first-person camera because it fully obscures your vision. To make things even worse, I could swear at the start of this run I was getting a lot of input lag. Can't tell if I'm lagging or... Couldn't really work out whether it was just me making excuses because I couldn't tell what was going on or whether I was actually lagging. The other thing too that I worked out is that when you're in first person camera, you can't tell whether certain abilities are actually on you or not. I don't know if this is on me. Fortunately, it also turns out that a lot of them come with audio cues, so I was able to work out when I had things like Ranger's wind thingy. Dodging things, though, was so cursed. Honestly, with Ranjit, a lot of the time I felt like it was easier for me to just sort of wander out into clear space, make sure that there was no things going to hit me, and then come back in. We can see on the damage meters here that this is definitely actually a very big handicap now. We slogged through the following pulls, which was basically just a mess of character, ability light, and light from the mobs, to the point where I could hardly see anything and just had to backpedal and make sure I wasn't standing in things half the time. The wind maze portion of Skyreach was actually really fun in first-person camera too. It sort of felt like a little bit of a racing game in a way. I might actually just swap to first person from now on when I'm doing this just for the fun of it. We did have a death in this section here. This is where the first person camera was probably the biggest handicap. I could not see what was under my feet, and this part of the room is already pretty tight even in third person camera, so sadly I just press wings, but you know, it is what it is. Dude, am I on NA ping? I am! But even with all of these handicaps, we still managed to +2 it. Now, looking down at the details meter, I wasn't overly contributing to this +2, but still pretty cruisy overall. So now for the one that I was probably the most excited for. No UI at all. Now, obviously for this one, I'm going to have to use my keybinds again because I can't actually see my bars if I switch my UI off. Pretty much, this is basically just zero thing. Like, there's no HUD, there's no frames, there's no nothing. The funniest bit here too is that I can't even tell if we're succeeding or not. Like, I can't tell what the dungeon timer is. I can't tell how much damage I'm doing. I can't tell if I'm going to die. I can't tell if the mobs are going to die. This is removing pretty much everything that I possibly can without blinding myself. Holy. I wonder if I did lots of damage. Even something as simple as kicking was extremely hard. I had to watch for the mob and see when it actually started its cast animation. And even then, I wasn't entirely sure if I was targeting it properly because there's so many mobs in one spot. Why don't I try Hodge him? Oh yeah, there we go. I was trying a few different strategies as I was going to try and at least do some damage. The main thing I was doing was pretty much just pressing either Judgment or Blade of Justice intermittently, just seeing which one I had up, and then I would just spam the spenders in between. It actually tended to work out pretty well. I'm pretty sure my cooldowns were never lined up whatsoever. Don't think I ever used my trinket at all, but it, I guess, seemed to be working in the end. But after a little bit, we adapted. I started landing kicks, started using my trinket every so often, started pressing all of my buttons. I couldn't tell if I was doing well or not. I couldn't tell what was dead or whether I was close to dead or anything, but I felt like I was doing all right. This is my kick. Yes. I have a puzzle box. Am I using it? I think so. Now, not knowing when something is nearly dead or not is probably the most annoying thing. I just decided at the end here that I was going to send Wake of Ashes because I had no idea what health the boss was on. I hope it's not nearly dead because I just sent everything. It'd be so funny if it just dies now. The whole time too, I was having to basically just guess what cooldowns I had and what cooldowns I didn't have. So Lord knows in the end, I should look at the logs and see how many casts of certain abilities I got off, because I was just freestyling it the whole time. Pretty sure I'm not going to have wings because I sent it at the end of the boss. But I can at least send 30 seconds. Now, if I had to check the clock before actually starting this run, like the real clock, I might have known whether we were actually on track or not, but I don't know. Things felt like they were going okay. I only died once. No one else had really died. So I'm so curious to see what my damage is at the end of this. This massive spicy pull before the last boss. At this stage, I was just pressing all of my defensives. I didn't know if I was full health or 2% health. I was pressing bubble, just pressing health potion randomly. But we managed to get through this as well. So I don't know. I'd love to see what the timer was. At the time, I had no idea. Drink my health pot. Don't know what my health's at, but that'd be a bad thing to do. I wish I could say there was some sort of hilarious moment throughout these final bosses, but aside from the fact that I couldn't work out for the life of me what buttons I was pressing at what times, everything actually went pretty smoothly. So the grand reveal was going to be very interesting. Oh my god, all right, how did we go? Dude, what? I didn't even lose. I came second in damage, and we +2 this 12 pit. Here I was thinking that this was going to make things more and more cursed, but apparently +12s are just so easy at the moment that you can play with literally no UI and still be fine. Now, that was originally my final step on the plan, but clearly that isn't cursed enough. So to start with, I debated doing some sort of blindfolded run with like people in comms or something like that, but to be perfectly honest, it's end of season and I don't really want to annoy people to actually help verbally guide me through a run blindfolded. But I felt like I needed to add something more cursed on the end. So I decided to do this. Now, all that I could see was my cooldown manager and the ground around it. I was having to set the run up using like my OBS on the second monitor, but as soon as the run starts, you can see that I cover OBS with a web page because I want it to be as authentic as possible. So this is as cursed as I can think. So we jump straight into it like this. Go forward. Oop. Yeah, I can see there for a second. This stairs here. Oh shit. I only did the first part of the dungeon like this. While it is amusing to try and do these things, I didn't want to actually troll these other 4 people. So I think I proved my point here. Covering 95% of your screen is definitely cursed enough. That is as cursed as it needs to be. I hope you enjoyed a few little shenanigans towards the end of Season 1. Content is starting to dry up a little bit at this point, so doing some of these things to just help keep myself amused is always a fun thing to do. As always, a big thank you to my channel members and Buy Me a Coffee supporters. The Joy of Checks, Tobias, Yulem, Is This Real, Obold the Orc, Willie, and Kamal at the Keystone Legend tier, as well as everyone else appearing on the end screen. And thank you, the viewer, for hanging out all the way until the end. See you all in Azeroth, gamers. Until next time, take care.